Today we're going to show you how to program a welding robot. See right up there, programming welding robot. Our robot is a Fanuc 100i with a Lincoln power supply. It's a MIG welding robot. It does not use G-codes. You can see G-codes here with a question mark. You can cross that right off. It does not run well in the welding world when we're programming automated things. It's usually a laser, automated plasma cutter, water jet, things like that. That automatically converts the G-codes. But when people think of lathes and mills, they think of G-codes. We don't use G-codes. It doesn't even have G-codes in the language for the robot. Our automated plasmas and lasers, that has G-codes, but it automatically converts it for a lot of that stuff. The teach pendant we're going to go over, that is how you program this thing. The teach pendant is a little, looks like a little computer. It's got a dead man switch on the back. The thing won't run unless the dead man switch is pushed in. We're going to go over what's on the teach pendant, what the stuff does that's on it. XYZ coordinates are on the teach pendant. That's going to have two sets. One set is for one set of servos. The second set is basically the head of where the torch is. That's the second set of servos. Servo is just a little motor. There's a motor in each one of the joints of the robot. So this XYZ controls each one of those servos. The other thing we're going to go over is welds. There's two types of welds on these robots. There's linear and circular ones. So when I start people out on a robot, I always have them type their name out in Microsoft Word, tape it to a plate, and then trace the name. And that's what we're going to do just with the name of our YouTube station, which is TV Weld. So we're just going to weld TV Weld into a plate. The reason I usually do that is because if you look, you're going to have linear welds, and then you're also going to have circular welds. And the circular welds are a little bit more difficult than the linear welds. You have to do like a touch-up action on it. So we're going to get out there, we're going to program this, and hopefully learn at least the basics of how to program a welding robot.
Alright, this is your main control for the robot. It's got a number of different features. It's called a teach pendant. And you can see, if we can get down on the screen, there's your screen. That's what you're first going to start out with when you start up your robot. Go down here. All those XYZ coordinates are different axes for the robot. Each one moves a different servo motor. That's how you program. You jog this thing around. And you can see some other things. If we go down, percentage plus minus is how fast this thing's going to move. When you're starting out, you want to have it real slow because otherwise you'll crash it. See, there's wire feed plus and minus. That sticks the wire out. Weld enable makes it so you can weld. There's a step key there. That's so that when you're going to each position of the robot, it'll go to that and it won't continue to go. So it's going to step through the program. That's what you're going to want to do when you first start. First thing we're going to do is go to select. I just hit select and all these program names come up. We're going to pretend like nothing's written here and we're going to go to create. So you're going to click F2. Okay, I just clicked F2 and it's asking for a program name. So now you're going to want to go down to, because we're going to call this TV Weld because we're going to trace the name of our YouTube station here. So we're going to go down to uppercase letters. Okay, so we're on uppercase letters and you can see down there, F1 through F5, there's a group of letters above it. So I'm going to type in the name of the program and it's just going to be TV Weld. So we typed in TV Weld. Now we're going to go to end and we're going to start actually programming the welds that we're going to do. Now if you look at the back of this controller, these little yellow things are dead man switches, so they have to be pushed in order to get this thing to move. In order to get any of the blue buttons on this teach pendant to move, you have to hold the shift key in while you're holding the dead man switch in. So to make this thing move, you have to hold the shift key. Now I went ahead and programmed two parts. Or 2 points rather. The first one you can see it has a fine, the second one you can see has a continuous. Fine means it's going to go to that exact point. the first point is going to be the home position of the robot. The second point is a point just above where you want it to start welding. You'll see it says CNT 100. The reason we're going to do that is because it doesn't have to go exactly to that point, so it's going to round off. The dangerous part of that is if you have a clamp or something close to it, it could round off and hit your clamp. So you want to make sure that that continuous point, there's nothing around it where it can actually hit. So we'll show you where these 2 points are now. This is your home point. That's your fine point. You want it to go to exactly that point. And it's just the robot perched up, ready to go. So we'll take it to our next point, the one that's continuous, and you can kind of see why it doesn't really have to be a fine point here. This is the second point that has the continuous mark on it. And you can see it's an approach point where you see that white piece of paper down there. That's where we're going to go to weld. So it's an approach point, so we don't care if it rounds off, so you're going to want that to be continuous. Now when you go down to start the welds, when you do your arc starts, that's going to be fine too, because it has to be where the weld is. So now we'll jog this thing down, do one more approach point, and then we will start the weld. Okay, you can see we jogged this robot right above the T. Manually jogged it over there. So now we're going to put another approach point, so it's going to be continuous again. We'll show you how to do that. So we're going down to our third point here, and it's going to be a continuous point. So if you look down here, you're going to see point, arc start, weld point, arc end. F1 is a point, so we're going to push F1. And you can see it asks what kind of points. We're going to do number 2 there, the continuous, because it's again, just get to the part so we can start welding. There's nothing in the way, so it's safe. You hit it, and there's your next point. Now we're going to go down to our arc start, which is going to work a little bit different. That's going to be fine, because you can't have your weld skewed off a little bit, so it's going to be a fine point. So we'll jog her down to the arc start. Alright, we jogged her to the beginning of the T. So now we're going to start the weld, because we're just going to trace this phrase. So we're going to go back to the teach pendant and put it in an arc start. So here we are, we're back to the teach pendant. So our arc start button is going to be F2. Hit arc start. There's your little menu. You want to be 100% fine. So you're going to scroll down, hit enter, arc start. Now that weld, or that robot knows it's going to start a weld there. Now you have to jog it to the end of the weld. So we'll do that. Alright, now we jog it to the end of the weld, so it's going to go across the T. So we're going to hit arc end now. So we'll go back to the teach pendant. Okay, here we are back at the teach pendant. And you can see there's a weld point and an arc end. If you were going to do a multiple weld motion, you could put a weld point in the middle if it was going to like change to 90 degrees or something. So we're going to go down here to F4, hit arc end. And it's going to ask you for a linear or a circular one. That's what that little L is in the beginning. Number 1, then L. That means linear. That's the one you want because it was a straight line. So we're going to hit enter, arc end. Now I'm going to fast forward and do all the straight welds here because it's basically the same thing. until I get to a circular dimension, because that's going to be a little bit different. Alright, what we just did here is we finished the T. So we came back to here, put an arc start here, linear move to here for the arc end. Now I'm gonna zoom right in here on the TV weld and just talk while I do this stuff. Hopefully it makes sense here as we're going along. Let's go to the teach pen and I'll show you the next thing that I did here. Alright, our first arc start is up there under number 4. You can see this 6 right here is a continuous point, and what I did is I got away from the first line of the T, so I pulled away from the table, put that point in, so it kind of bounces out as it goes to the next arc start. The arc start, the arc end, was just the bottom part of the T. So now we'll just zoom in on the TV weld, and I'll go until I get to a curved line. Alright, so what I meant by get away from it as you're going from weld to weld, I'm going to take this and I'm going to get it away from the plate, maybe move over towards your next arc start, which is going to be that V. Okay, and now I'm going to put in a point that's continuous, just to get it away from the plate. That way it doesn't hit anything, or the wire doesn't catch on something or whatever. Now I'm going to go back down and get ready to do another arc start. So right there is going to be our arc start. But I'm gonna angle this robot so the angle is correct. Right now, if I start there, it's going to be in a trailing angle, and it's probably going to be high and bumpy. So let me just switch the angle here so it's the correct angle. Alright, we just switched our angle a little bit on the torch so that the weld would look better. How did I know that it would look bad? Because it's a welder that's doing it. You have to be a welder in order to know these angles. You're not going to be able to have some engineer come in here that has no welding experience and know that angle is going to be off and the weld is going to look ropey. So now we're going to go to our arc start here. This one's going to have a weld point in the middle, right in the middle of the V. So we're going to jog it to the middle of the V and then go to the other side of the V for our arc end. So here we go. So we're going to jog to the middle of the V here. We're going to go to weld point. And it's going to ask for a circular or a linear. This is a linear, so you're going to go. Let me actually pull this up on the menu. So I just pushed weld point, and you can see the first one's got an L in front of it. The second one's got a C. That L means linear, so you're good to go. So you're going to go ahead and hit enter. And there's a weld point in the middle. You started right here. You clicked weld point, that menu came up, and then we clicked linear. Now we're going to jog to the end and click arc end. Okay, now we're in the middle of this weld. We're going to go to the end. One way. There's our arc end. So now we're going to go to arc end, linear, hit enter. Now I'm going to fast forward through the W so that we get to that E, because the E has some circular stuff on it. That's a little bit more challenging, so I'll get the W done and then we'll zoom back in when we get to the E here. Alright, we just got done doing our W. Now we're going to get into some circular moves for that E. is a little bit trickier. So I'm going to get down close to the E, and then we'll look at the screen once we get to doing that. Alright, so we're at the start of the E. You're going to go to arch start, and it's going to be just like the linear moves. It's going to be the same exact thing, 100% fine. We're going to hit enter. Now, we're going to go a little bit through the curvature here. So we'll go along that line. Okay, now it's going to get tricky. So we'll zoom in on the screen here so you can see what's going on for the next point. Okay, so our weld point here, it's just like the linears. You're going to go down here, go to F3. That screen's going to pop up. Now what you have to do is go down to 2, where it says circular, because you want it in a circular motion to this point, and hit enter. There you go. So now we're going to jog to the next one. And hit that touch-up button. That basically means it's a touch-up to the next point that's circular, if that makes sense. So we're going to jog it to the next point and then hit shift touch-up. Alright, now we're going to go to our next point. Okay, I moved a little bit more, and now this is where you do that shift touch-up. So I'm going to hit shift touch-up, and it's been recorded. Now we're going to go to the next point and put the weld point in again. Okay, so we're going to go to weld point. Circular, just like we did on the first one. There it is. We're going to go through another about 20% of the line here. Here. And we're going to hit the shift touch-up button again. And you keep doing that until you get all the way around the arc. So we're going to keep going here. Weld point, circular weld point. I just hit that again. And then the last one, we're going to go around this E here. And that's going to be your shift touch-up. Now to finish this thing out, all we have to do is go to the left a little bit. And then we're going to go arc end. Linear. There it is. So now we'll finish programming this out and we'll burn it in. Alright, we just finished programming it. Now we want to get this thing back to home. And it's just like the way you came in. You're going to do a couple points in the air till you get it to gradually get out of there and make sure it gets out of there safely, it doesn't hit anything. So what we're going to do, we're going to move over here. So the runaway point is away from that block of steel. Alright, program's written. Now to make sure that everything's safe, we're going to click on, where is it? There it is. The step button, and we're going to step through the process going fairly slow to ensure that everything is where it's supposed to be, and then we're not going to crash this robot. So we're going to turn our percent down, which if you want to turn your percent down, you go right down here to the plus minus, and we're going to take it to 5% speed. And we're going to step through this once, each point that we recorded. And after that, We're going to turn our step off, and we're going to go through it one more time with the step off, going very slow again. Then we'll go 50%, then we'll go 100%, then we'll weld. Oh, we just did our step through at 5%. We're going to boost it up to 50% and do another step through now. So we'll go through each step again at a faster rate of speed, at 50%. Alright, we're going to take it out of step now and go 50% with it just going through the whole program. So it's not going to stop at each individual point. We're going to take the step off and go at 50% and see what happens here. Alright, we just completed our non-step process where it just ran continuously at 50%. We're now going to take it to 100%. This is how fast this thing is actually going to move once we get it welding here. This is going to be our last dry run before we weld. Alright, so we just did our 100% dry run. Everything's good. Nothing's going to crash. We know that because we did, we think here, what, 4 dry runs to make sure. You have to do those dry runs, otherwise you're going to have an incident. The only thing you got to do now to make it actually run and weld is go to Weld Enable here. Push that. Oh, I forgot to hold shift in. Okay, so I'm going to hold the shift button here and then go to Weld Enable. And up here, there should be that little weld key. It goes green. That means you're hot. It's going to weld. So we're ready to go. We'll do a run here. Alright, that's our final weld there. Hopefully it gives you an idea on how to program these robots. Thanks for watching and subscribing to TV Weld. Out!